All right, so first things first, how are you?
I'm good. It's yeah, slowly. I mean, this is my favorite time of year, like fall. I
Okay,
think just I make very fall music, so it's probably pretty normal that I like autumn and fall kind of weather. But yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Everything's going really well. Having a good year so far. New music out, which is always lovely. Just trucking along. How about you?
yeah, same. It's getting used to kind of life post-COVID in a way because a lot of things have changed in the business that we are in, I think.
It's starting to feel a little bit more normal. I just did a tour last month, and I think it's the first time that I'm like, oh, this feels a little bit like how it used to be. Like it's almost getting back.
Fair enough. That's very good to hear, and I'm very glad that a lot of artists now get to kind of
Yeah,
do the other half of their job again.
yeah. It's not all making TikTok videos and Instagram videos. There's more to
Exactly.
it apparently.
But before we get into the music that you've been making lately and the EP
Mm,
"Oh Downhill," I'd like to go back to the beginning a little bit because I came across an interview where you mentioned kind of you always it was always easier for you to express yourself in song than kind of to talk to people in a way. So when did you
yeah.
first start putting thoughts to paper and to kind of write songs in order to get certain thoughts out?
I kind of did it by accident. I grew up. I played in bands and stuff. I used to be a bass player and things, and then I kind of realized I didn't study or didn't have any kind of skills to get a job. And a friend of mine worked at a pub, and he was like, you can come play songs here. I was like, I don't know how to sing, and he's like, yeah, just figure it out. I'm like, okay, that'll pay my rent. And then it was after a few years of playing in pubs, I kind of you get sick of playing Wonderwall and
Sure.
covers like all night. So I started writing my own songs, and then obviously little cliche with breakups and things. You try and express yourself a little. Um, so it was kind of just that. I kind of just stumbled into it, and then I don't ever realize that I'm like I think you don't really know why or when it happened. I was just like, okay, something's happened. How do I process this? What have I been doing lately? Oh, I've been playing guitar and singing. I'm like, okay, this is now kind of my outlet to yeah, figure things out by playing guitar and singing about it. So
Going from that process of figuring out your thoughts and singing about it to
mm,
sharing those songs and sharing those ideas with kind of the public, the unknown.
yeah,
What was that like? Was that a big step for you?
it was like selfishly, I don't think I ever thought about it.
Okay.
And I never felt any pressure about it because I was just like, okay, I'm just writing stuff. Um, and also I'm like, oh, it's so directly related to me. I'm like, no one's really going to relate to this, so it doesn't like really matter. I'm like, okay, no one's going to understand this feeling. And then the more and more I put out music, the more it was people reaching out and saying, oh, I love that you wrote this because like this happened to me and this is how I felt when listening to the song. I'm like, oh, so it wasn't until after I started putting music out that I kind of felt a bit of pressure and
Okay.
also like a little bit scared. I'm like, oh, like people are relating to this shit. Like, how do I explain this? And like, well, I was just so unaware that people would even listen to music to start with. So I never thought about being scared about sharing it. And now it's more like, okay, now I'm a little scared, but also it's like a little safety net. I think now knowing
Mhm.
that people can relate to it, it kind of like almost helps you in the opposite way of being like, you have to write. I have to write about this because I know that someone else is going to, benefit from it or be able to get something out of it.
Right. And you mentioned playing in bands, so I don't know to what extent this is true, but am I right in saying that you initially didn't kind of see yourself as this artist? You were more active behind the scenes, writing for other people.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I didn't get into singing until really late. Like I even still don't think of myself as a singer. Like people say,
Okay.
oh yeah, Hazlett, that singer-songwriter. I'm like, no, I'm just a guitar playing writer, I guess. Like I have this weird, I don't know, imposter syndrome with the word
Mm,
singer. But yeah, I mean, I got into it really late, and yeah, I never really saw myself as an artist or a singer until I kind of fell into it. I guess I loved writing and I loved helping other people write and I loved storytelling. And then I guess when you add all those things up, I was like, well, maybe I should be an artist if I like it. all these things that an artist is supposed to do, and I love helping, you know, other people write and express what they're feeling. So
Was there perhaps, and then maybe not, but was there perhaps a song that was kind of a turnaround or a key thing, a key song in your kind of development to where you are now?
in terms of like songs that I put out there.
Yeah. So something that you wrote that you and then actually had to sing on as well. And then what was there something that kind of made you realize, okay, no, I do enjoy this. I do love
I think
communicating these ideas to people.
I think it was when I put out Low Down Laid On, like it was the very first song that I put out. And it was also one of those songs that everyone told me not to put out. And I was like,
Okay.
no, this is my favorite thing. And this is like encapsulates, I guess, what I wanted to do. I'm like, a lot of the other songs, like I loved all the other songs I was writing, but that was kind of the first moment where it was this nice, you know, blend of, you know, folky songwriter with all the atmospheric sounds and stuff that I like. And it was kind of the first moment of clarity where I was like, yes, okay. The vision in my head came to life and I love this song. And it's, you know, not the catchiest song in the world, but it just, it was kind of a little breakthrough moment where I was like, yep, cool. This is it. So yeah, I'd say that. And I mean, there's a big momentous occasion as well when it's your first song that you put out. Like
Sure.
it's hard to kind of, you know, ignore it. It's such a big moment. And then I'd say also, you know, the new album stuff, Please Don't Be, the first song that came out off this album, is another one of those moments where I've come full circle again, where I finished writing that song and it was like, it became, I keep calling it like the sun that the rest of the album like revolves around.
Right.
Like the rest of I finished Please Don't Be with Freddie and I was like, okay, this song is perfect. Like it's where I am mentally, it's where I am sonically, and the rest of the album kind of just flowed out of that song. I'm like, if we needed a sound or something like that, we always borrowed from Please Don't Be. So yeah, I mean, this new stuff is kind of another one of those, you know, pinpoint tentpole moments where I'm like, okay, I'm on track with everything that I really love doing about music.
Right, and with let's delve into that song then, because Please Don't
Yeah,
Be both. I think it's really melodic. That chorus line is just so catchy, and it just sticks with you for some reason.
yeah.
Whenever you're working on that in the studio, do you feel that? Do you feel like, okay, now we've this is really cool. That this little
It it felt cool, but it's like that. It was also like if you listen to some of the other stuff, Please Don't Be is such a different way of me singing. I don't
mm,
know. I kind of just fell into it. I don't know if it was. I've been trying to figure out. Sometimes Freddie, my producer that I work with, he's kind of the reason I moved to Sweden, and we talk things out a lot, and we're trying to like pinpoint it. And I think it's just from, you know, earlier on when I started doing this, like I only just started singing. I wasn't really used to it. I wasn't confident about it. And I guess now from touring and putting out two EPs, I've hit a bit of confidence. You know, I'm not trying to hide, I guess,
mm,
under the guitar or something as much. So Please Don't Be was the first time, whereas I think we're recording that and Freddie was just like, oh, okay. Like when I hit the big note, like the big yell, I'm like, I don't usually sing from that part of my voice because I'm trying to, you know, be quiet or
mm.
be a bit low key. So yeah, I don't think at the time while we wrote it, I wasn't thinking anything. But when the song finished, I definitely had that thing of like, oh shit, I really like this song. This is like probably one of my favorite songs that I've done in a long, long time. So yeah, I don't usually get those moments with songs. That's probably that only happened like once or twice. So
Okay.
there's definitely something about it. And I think it was just because I was trying something different and I was trying to not, yeah, be as shy, I guess, about the way that I sing.
All right. Well, it's very good that you found that confidence, and because that song, yeah, to me at least, it really comes across that the vocal
Yeah,
lines.
I'm also like nervous about it. Like my mum is like, "Oh, I can hear the words that you're singing on this album instead." I'm like, "Damn it, I don't want you." Like that sounds like a bad thing. But
Well,
no, I'm glad people are liking it.
well, let's talk a little bit about the words then, because I did go through the lyrics, and please don't be in love with somebody else. But there's a lot of that sentiment in in uh, in Oh Downhill. I wrote down, it made no sense why I cared about you. In Everybody Hates Me, stuck on these low lights. So these this sentiment of kind of, I don't know if this is an accurate description, but kind of growing apart or seeing somebody else going in a different direction than you are. Where did that come from? What kind of thematically gave rise to this album?
I think a lot of this
Or
album,
half.
like I mean, this album in general, like, you know, with the side A of the album, No Doubt, being out so far, and the rest of it, it's all, I love, you know, I love Bruce Springsteen, I love Bob Dylan, and, you know, Crowded House and all those like storyteller people. And I think a lot of, you know, the first two EPs of mine was, you know, direct personal experience, just straight up, you know, reliving something. And this album, I kind of wanted to do a lot more storytelling, you know, like all those artists that I really love. I was like, you know, I want to be able to write a story and not just be like, it's got those bits of me in it, you know, those direct things like in Everybody Hates Me, you know, long walking with my headphones for life. I'm like, that's a very me moment. But for the most part, I wanted to, you know, have moments of, you know, reliving in my head, but also just have them as kind of stories as well. And also leave them up for a bit of interpretation. I mean, Please Don't Be in Love with Someone Else is, kind of about a relationship, and kind of, you know, saying that thing out loud is such a abrupt thing to say. But, you know, things like Oh Downhill isn't about a relationship, but it's more about running back to things that are bad for you and why we kind of do it. So I think it was a weird psychoanalytical thing of me stepping back and writing stories about like humans and things like that. And I think when you write about relationships and love, it's such a easy access point for people to get into something. But I mean, most of the songs aren't really about, you know, love and relationships, but it's a very open interpretation that, you know, can be about just, you know, people being people and life kind of as it is, which is what I try to leave a lot more openness in it. So it's not, you know, it's not just a bunch of me writing about love and relationships all the time.
Right. No, but as you mentioned, and I've been into Bob Dylan and people like Bruce Springsteen a lot as well, and it's that writing about the human condition. It's not necessarily specific, but just how humans operate and our psychology and how we interact with each other and that kind of thing.
I mean, it's so interesting. I get like one of the biggest questions that I get messages about is, you know, what do you write about? What do you get the most inspiration about? And I'm like, people are just so infinitely interesting. And like, you can write albums upon plays and movies. Like, it's always about people. They're just so fascinating. And it could be someone you barely know. It could be someone you've known for years. It could be a story you've heard about someone else. I mean, the possibilities are endless when you're writing about, the human condition and people in general.
Yeah, and I think that's why artists like Bob Dylan and Bruce Springsteen still remain so relevant, where it's about the human condition. It's and people. It's the variables change. I mean, the times change, the clothes we wear change, and all that kind of stuff. But the rest is very much the same, I suppose.
Yeah, we're very much creatures of habit still. We're not much has changed.
Well, for good and bad, I think.
Yeah.
Does it help writing about these things for you? Do you does it help you figure out things in your life?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, all the earlier stuff that I wrote was definitely me having, you know, I think I've talked about a bit like self-help, self-therapy kind of thing. And then now it's kind of been the same. Like the song like Everybody Hates Me is probably one of the most personal songs that I've written. And I tried changing the title of it so many times, but none of the other titles were like kind of apt, because I hated the phrase Everybody Hates Me. It sounds like such a whingy, whiny emo song. And as much as I listened to emo music back in the day, I didn't want to call a song Everybody Hates Me. But it was so apparent. It was during the pandemic, and I was like, just moved to Sweden. I was by myself too much. I had too much isolation, and it was definitely something that I wrote. And it's when I sang it out loud, it helped me figure out, you know, I'm being way too analytical about my relationships with people and what I'm thinking of others. I'm like, it helped me figure out, you know, as much as I'm a bit of a person who loves their alone time and solitude, like you definitely need to be with other people to be a mentally well-rounded person. So definitely songs like that, Oh Downhill, and even I wrote another song on the album called To Sleep in a King Alone is a song about the pandemic as well, and just the weight of it. I didn't want to write songs about the pandemic, but there was just because I felt like, oh, it's too on the nose, it's too cliche. Everyone's gonna be writing songs about this, but I mean, there was just way too many strange, different emotions to not write about the past couple of years that kind of just
Right.
somehow leaked their way into whatever I was writing anyway. So I was just like, this is very natural what I'm going through. So I just have to, take this theme and run with it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's almost inevitable. I mean, it
Yeah,
impacted, even though we're all sick of it, it has impacted our thoughts and emotions quite a bit, I
100%.
think.
Yeah.
Something just sprung into my mind. You mentioned some lyrics being very, very specific and others being more of a storytelling side.
Yeah.
I remember, I can't remember which song this was, but you mentioned something about being hit in the face and getting a nosebleed, I think. Did that really happen?
That actually happened. It wasn't specific about that song, but it did happen. Someone they didn't punch me in the face, but they opened a cupboard door and it
Okay.
broke my nose. But and that then it became almost like a metaphor of me being like, I always say sorry when it's not my fault.
All right.
And I know so many of my friends that do the same thing. I'll be walking along the street, or somebody hits me with the trolley at a supermarket, and I'm like the first person to say I'm sorry. I'm like, I really shouldn't be saying I'm sorry in that situation, but constantly being the one to say sorry, trying to get out of that mentality of you don't have to say sorry for everything, or you don't have to think that you're such a burden on people's time. I do that a lot as well. I'm like, oh, sorry for interrupting, or oh, sorry, do you mind if I get a napkin? Like when you go at a cafe or something, I'm like, you shouldn't really be sorry in that situation. So yeah, I've had my nose broken. I wasn't punched by that person
Okay,
specifically in that song. So
fair enough.
little artistic license there.
It's interesting what you mentioned because I've noticed that about myself too. And my theory at the moment is that my father's British, and I
Yeah,
think it's that British reservedness that you kind of, and I suppose in Australia there's a lot of that as well, still lingering.
yeah,
That kind of, like you said, apologizing anytime there's something happening.
yeah. I've noticed Dutch people and Scandinavians, they're a lot better at just not apologizing all the time, which is nice. I don't know if it's because they're reserved and to themselves, but I'm
It's
slowly learning.
the Dutch side is a lot more direct. You just say what you
Mm,
say, regardless of how people might feel in a way. But
okay,
I think it's
I'll try
obviously
that while I'm here.
yeah. But
See how
obviously
far
it's
it gets me.
different for every person. But yeah, I hear that sometimes where in my line of questioning can sometimes be quite direct or something, or the way I phrase it can be quite direct.
I think it's better. It's better, I think, in the long run though, being direct than beating around the bush, as we say
Mm,
in Australia.
right. Well, final question then, before I let you
Yes.
go. Now that everything, well, we kind of mentioned it in the beginning, but now that you get to, well, not only release the first half of your album and kind of working towards
Mm,
that full release, but also playing live shows again. Like I think in September was your first actual tour again. So, uh,
yeah.
what's life like now? Are you very busy all of a sudden and kind of focused?
Um, on the live side of things, I mean, the idea is to always be as busy as possible when it comes to live shows. Like, I was talking to someone recently. I'm like, the whole point I got into music was to play live. A lot of people, they love being in the studio. They love working on things. I'm like, I love writing, but recording and stuff isn't my favorite thing in the world. I love seeing
Right.
it come to life and I love helping out, but like for me, it's playing live is the only thing that I want to do. So, uh, hopefully with the album coming out, lots of tours in the future. And also, one of the reasons I moved over to Europe recently is just, you're so much closer to everything here. I
Sure.
mean, you can visit 4 countries in the time that takes you to visit, one city in Australia. So it still blows my mind that you can get on a boat and end up in another country here, like within a few hours.
Sure.
Yeah, it's insane. But yeah, definitely the plan for the next 12 months is just be on the road playing shows as much as possible. Um, and then, yeah, hopefully gear up for a big festival season for the summer next year as well. Now
Sounds
that things
good.
are remotely back to normal, but fingers crossed that we can stay moving in this direction.
One last thing then. When did you
Yeah,
move? Have you had a European winter yet?
I have I've had one, I've had a couple, but usually my plan is always get back to Australia when winter sinks in here. I run away
Sounds
back to
smart.
Australia. yeah, so I essentially just chase summer all year round. But my plan for getting through the winter this year is just I usually just try and find a friend's family and go and do Christmas with them. And just I'm a big Christmas person, so
Okay.
as long as you're around a family around Christmas, I think it's all good. So my plan is to find someone who wants to adopt me for Christmas, and that's how I'll get through the winter somewhat.
Yeah, preferably somewhere where it's not that cold.
Yeah, I think that's unavoidable where I am, but yeah, I'll buy a big coat. Everything will be okay.
Fair enough. All right, Mitchell, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me,
Thanks.
and all the best in the future.
Yeah, lovely talking to you. Hopefully, talk to you soon.